Hi and welcome. My name is Greg Carroll from More Than Accountants, and thanks for joining me today. What I'd like to share with you is a strategy that a number of our clients are using to great effect, and that is they're actually using investment property to help pay off their home loan. So during this video, I'm actually going to show you some examples of what clients are actually doing, and also talk about the steps you could take to see if this strategy could work for you. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Well, I guess the first question is this going to be relevant to you? This is a strategy that's specifically designed for people earning $100,000 or more who want to start an investment portfolio in the next 60 days, but also want to be able to pay off their home loan in the next 5 to 6 years. So what I'm going to step you through is a couple of things. We're going to look at why the traditional investment model is broken, how to secure an investment property that pays you and pays your home. I'm going to show you some real-world examples that clients that we have are achieving right now, and this is related to properties in the Brisbane market. And I'm also going to show you how you can get started today. So what's the biggest problem I witnessed with first-time investors? Part of the essential step was to get clients to actually shift the way they thought about property investment. And that's shifting away from what I would say is the traditional investment model, which looks a bit like this. So typically with a property investment, the objective is to pursue growth, obviously, like we want to grow wealth over time. And in terms of doing that, we buy a property, tends to get negatively geared, which tends to generate a cash flow shortfall. So that could be $100 a week, let's say. And so you're putting $100 a week into that property. You're making a loss there in terms of cash flow, but the objective is that over time you'll be rewarded with capital growth. So you're losing money out of your pocket every day, but the property is going to grow in value over time. So that's the traditional model. The issue with that is the one thing that you can't ever guarantee, irrespective of how much research you do and whatever the numbers are going to look like on a property, you can't guarantee what that growth's going to be, because there's so many external factors that could actually influence that in terms of political decisions, the economy, what happens globally, etc., change in lending rules like we're facing at the moment. There's so many factors out there that can influence growth, irrespective of whether a property looks like a good opportunity or not. So the issue then becomes if you're not achieving the growth outcome that you want, but you're still paying money into that property, then that starts to become a lot harder. And if that growth actually diminishes quite substantially, flatlines, or even if that property goes backwards and you're still putting money into that property each week or each month, then that starts to get into an unsustainable situation, because the question becomes, how long are you going to continue to do that while you're not being compensated by growth at the other end? And this is where a lot of people come unstuck with property. So that model all works well when the market's going up and it's growing, but as we know, over the long time, will property grow in value? Yeah, sure. In most markets, it does it. But in the short to medium term, you can have all sorts of fluctuations and different cycles. And so if you're pumping money in, you've got to be able to ride out those cycles all the time. And that's where it becomes very hard for people to hold property long term. And if you can't hold property long term, then how do you get rewarded with that growth? So the way we try and approach it with clients, particularly under this model that I'm talking about, is that what we look for is properties that actually have a cash surplus from day one. So in other words, rather than them taking money out of your pocket, they're actually putting money into your pocket. So if you have a property that's paying for itself, even if the growth falls away a bit or it flatlines for a period, it's not going to be as stressful for you to hold that property, because it's covering its costs. Or even, as we said, even if it's paying money into you, then you've got that ability to hold that long term, irrespective of what the market fluctuations are doing. So it makes it much more sustainable. But here's the other thing. Whereas under what I'll call the traditional model, your total return at the end of the day is going to be made up of the amount of growth you get less the amount of money that you put into that property, so your cash flow shortfall. So the net of those two figures is going to be your total return. But if you've got a property that's actually paying you money, that's got a cash surplus, then your total return is going to be a combination of whatever growth you achieve on that property plus the cash that's coming in. So it's those two factors combined. So even if you only get modest growth on that property, either way you are still going to be coming out ahead because that's your combined return. So that's the start point for a lot of clients who are in that position. Just being able to get them to see that there's a different way to approach this could suddenly sort of free them up. So they weren't seeing it as a choice of, well, either I have to pay off the home loan or I can invest. They could actually have the ability to do both. So look, what I'd like to share with you now is some examples. So this is actually real world examples. So these are properties that clients actually have gone ahead and purchased that are currently up and running, and show you some of the numbers on those properties. So first thing I want to say is all these properties are in and around the Brisbane area. So we're not talking properties in, remote regional locations or mining towns or any high risk areas. These are properties in well established areas that have infrastructure, they've got schools, shops, good employment, good growth numbers. So, we're not talking about going out in the middle of nowhere in a high risk property. What I've also included with each of the property examples is to show what impact that cash flow, or the additional cash flow coming off that investment property and into a $400,000 home loan would have in terms of the expected time frame that we would cut off that loan, and also the expected interest savings. So that'll give you a bit of a perspective on how a property can work and the impact that it can also have on a typical home loan. Okay, so for the first property, the yield on that property was 6.34%. The cash flow that we're able to generate off that for the client was actually $121 a week, so quite a strong cash flow there. That $121 a week into a $400,000 home loan would actually cut the term by approximately 10 years and would save about $107,000 in interest. The next example, this one had a positive cash flow of $63 a week with a 6.4% yield. The impact on a $400,000 home loan, that would actually cut 6.3 years off the term and save approximately $68,000 in interest. This next one, cash flow on that, $39 a week, which would cut around about 4.3 years and save around $46,000 in interest. This one, pretty good cash flow, $76 a week. That going into a $400,000 home loan would cut 7.3 years off the term and save $78,000 in interest. And the last one, so this one, not as strong as cash flow as some of those other examples I've shown you, so just into the positive territory with $23 a week. But even with that contribution, would still cut actually 2.7 years of a $400,000 home loan and save $29,000 in interest. So that's some examples of what a number of our clients are doing right now. But I guess the key question is this a strategy you can take advantage of, and will it work for you? So look, the best place to start with that is to actually book in with me for a free telephone appointment. That way we can have a chat about your situation and some of the steps you could take to take advantage of those strategies, or to see whether those strategies would actually work for you and be appropriate. So the easiest way to do that is if you look below, there's actually a link you can click on. That'll actually take you through to my calendar, and that way you can book in a suitable day and time. So look, thanks very much for your time today. Greatly appreciated it, and I look forward to talking with you further about your investment plans.